we're nearly halfway through this administration. Of course, we're coming up to the May anniversary. And I think it's fair to say it was a change that wasn't expected. So as officers, it's been a really exciting time, because any moments of change mean that you have the opportunity to look at what it is that you do. So it's been an exciting time. We don't call them the new administration anymore. I think we're bedded in now. I think one of the things we're really proud of that we've done for the first time in a long time is developed an economic strategy for Westminster, and that's got 3 pillars, and one of those pillars is all about keeping the West End vibrant and keeping the tills going and making sure it's economically a success and moves with the times as well. And we've got lots of projects in the West End, starting with Oxford Street. We've obviously got the project to invest in the public realm of Oxford Street, which is coming forward, working in partnership with New West End Company and all of the members of New West End Company to enable investment into Oxford Street to improve the environment for everybody that uses it. We've also got a project with Regent Street as well, working in partnership with the Crown to enable investment in Regent Street. And we've been doing engagement across both Oxford Street and Regent Street over the last year or two and had loads of responses to that. So people getting really engaged with the plans. We've got our Meanwhile On project on Oxford Street, which is looking at getting better uses into some of those stores. So addressing the candy stores challenge, and also seeing how we can embrace some of the creativity and talent that we know is out there and give companies an opportunity to have a footprint and profile in bits of the West End that otherwise wouldn't be available to them. We had over 800 companies express an interest in being part of that. In terms of what's proposed for Oxford Street, it's really about making sure the street environment works as hard as possible for a positive experience for people who use the space. So it's no longer about pedestrianisation or major transformational change. It's about good, hard-working public realm that will stand the test of time and enable people to make better use of the space. Turning to climate change, so much work in this space. We have got targets in the borough to be a carbon neutral council by 2030 and a carbon neutral borough by 2040, and no one underestimates the challenge of getting there. You know, it does mean that we and everybody are going to need to do things differently. The trajectory that we have so far will not get us there. So the majority of our carbon emissions come from buildings in Westminster, we know this. So we've been doing work as a council through our own stock. We own a lot of buildings through our corporate stock, if you like. We obviously have a lot of homes as well. So we are bringing forward programmes to retrofit our own homes and our own properties, and we've got the country's first heat network down in Pimlico, which is also needs investment in the interests of addressing our carbon emissions, but also in the interests of making sure our residents have a reliable and efficient service. So we've got a big project looking at that at the moment. We obviously have a planning service as well, which I'm responsible for. So we were looking at our policies to see how we can encourage retrofit first. I need to stress it's not retrofit only, but how we can be really clear with applicants on when retrofit might be the best option and how they can move through that process so that it's as transparent and clear to everyone. We've got policy coming out on that soon as well. House building or home building in Westminster, because it's often through apartments and flats, but we have a really active home building programme as well, and obviously we're taking every opportunity to make sure that we have the highest standards of carbon or the lowest standards in some ways, but reduce the carbon emissions from our own builds as well. Other projects, I mean, this is is a broad church, the climate change agenda, so obviously greening and thinking about how our borough can be as green and biodiverse as possible. Spoke a little bit about Oxford Street and Regent Street, and part of that thinking is about how we can introduce greening to the heart of the city. But really important to say that Westminster is not just the West End, so we're also working with our local communities in some of the more residential areas of the borough to think about how we can support retrofit of residential properties, and also how we can think about local residential streets and how they can be places that has got greening, that has got flood measures, so that we're addressing the climate resilience side of things as well. So people have got places to find shade, that water has got places to go when it rains, and just trying to think about how we as a local authority can play our part in actively addressing climate change, but also encouraging others to play their part as well. Turning to affordable housing, one of the top priorities, if not the highest priority of the administration and the council, is the delivery of truly affordable housing. And what we mean when we say that is council homes for social rent. So quite quickly as a team, we had to get around a table and look at all of our plans and look at how we could really accelerate the delivery of council homes for social rent. So lots of our schemes we revisited to look at where we could move homes from market to intermediate to social rent, if you think of it as a ladder, if you like. And as a result, we've been able to deliver over 300 social homes already, and we've got plenty more in the pipeline. And anyone who lives in South London and gets the train in will see the Ebury developments coming out of the ground. That's a 50% affordable scheme down in Belgravia. We also have planning permission and are just in procurement for Church Street off Edgware Road. Again, hundreds of homes, 50% affordable housing coming through the Church Street development as well. And within that affordable housing percentage, a real priority for social homes, council homes for social rent as well. Plenty more to do. I mean, we've got to complete and finish these developments, but we're also thinking about what a future pipeline might look like as well. Really good working relationships with the GLA. Another thing that this administration brought in was ballots, which we didn't previously do in Westminster. And as a result of the ballots, we've been able to unlock further funding for our schemes where we have positive ballots, which we have on both Ebury and Church Street. So really thinking about how we can take every possible action to enable us to deliver affordable homes, which is, as you said, really big priority of this administration. On active travel, a big priority for this council, and importantly so because we're right in the middle of the city here with lots of uses conflicting in relatively small amounts of space. So we're doing a lot of work on this. It's not my direct area, but we're doing a lot of work on this. And obviously one of the key things that's happened over the last few years is the explosion, if you will, of electric bikes and scooters and all of the things. That it's really exciting to see people embracing this, but it's causing us a lot of challenges in terms of the street environment. And so we've been working really hard with the companies to try and address this, and we've got schemes in place now for dedicated parking for the bikes. It's all fairly new, of course, teething troubles, and we're just working through those, but we are working really hard to try and evolve as a city and make sure that whether it's in the West End or in our residential communities, that people are able to make choices for active travel. Also thinking about cycle lanes as well. I mentioned Oxford Street and Regent Street before, and we're really mindful of those cycle routes right through the heart of the city and how we help cyclists know how to get through the West End safely, and thinking about that as part of those plans as well. And yeah, just thinking about how we can make it as easy as possible for people to choose to walk or cycle or use public transport, and less obvious to think about perhaps cars or taxis. Let's talk about the West End and how it sits post-pandemic. I think we're still post-pandemic. And you only have to go out there into the West End to see how busy it is. It's a very busy place. It has changed, and I think we all know that the TfL data tells us that people are working less on Fridays in particular, but Mondays as well. But actually the weekends are really busy. So patterns have changed, and I think we'll forever, hold on to some of that pattern. But as far as the intelligence we get from partners, office space is really in demand in the West End, and I think that links really closely to companies wanting to attract talent and people, employees wanting to work somewhere that is vibrant, that has got a diverse offer. So office space is doing really well in the West End. Retail as well, I think it evolves. We've got lots more interesting uses. I give you axe throwing, but there's a lot of really interesting uses coming through, but also a lot of new brands coming through. And what's really pleasing is that they're choosing the West End as their first steps, as their first places to be, which is how it should be. We're really fortunate in the West End in Westminster in that we've got, well, let's call them the great estates, so we can have conversations with relatively few partners about a really big amount of space and property. And we've got really good relationships with our property partners, and it gives us the ability to really think strategically and collaboratively about the West End, and we do really good work. Of course, we've got more bids than any other local authority in the country, and we do a lot of work with the bids as well. So I feel really positive about the future of the West End. It's not an island. Westminster is not an island. The economy that we have in Westminster fundamentally relies on the rest of the city. And whether you're talking about talent and people coming in, and of course Crossrail has expanded its catchment, or whether you're talking about the supply chain, the hotels get their sheets washed and it's probably not in Westminster, or whether the food coming in from Park Royal. There's a really interesting map that extends well beyond Westminster that speaks to the ecosystem of London and the importance of that. I think it's, you can't have this conversation without talking about the word zero-sum game. The West End and Westminster can be successful, as well as the other parts of London as well, which are also going through their own evolution as a result of more people being at home on some days of the week. But I think we're settling into a bit more of an equilibrium now, and it feels like the concentration and diversity of activity that we have in Westminster will continue to remain relevant, as well as the vibrancy of the rest of London as well. And it's that ecosystem that will really support the sort of ongoing success of London, if you like. I spent Saturday this week in this building on the third Saturday of our Westminster After Dark stakeholder assembly. And what that is a piece of work for us to develop a strategy for the evening and night time in Westminster. First time we've ever had it in Westminster. It's slightly extraordinary if you think of what we've got here in the evening and night time. And of course we do loads already. We've got licensing, waste, lots of things that happen in the city at night. But what we've never had is that framework and strategy that you can look to that tells you like how we as a council are going to approach our role in the city at night and how we enable a safe, enjoyable borough for everybody that uses it. And there are tensions in the system because it is busy, and we've got workers who want to feel safe and secure as they go to and from work and when they're at work. We've got people who want to have fun and in all the ways that can manifest. And of course we've got residents that want to sleep. And the West End is a really special place because people live there. So what we've done through our work, or what we're aiming to do, and what we've done with the stakeholder assembly, is bring these audiences together so that rather than us forever sort of trying to figure this out behind closed doors, if you will, bringing the audiences together to tease out some of those tensions and try and arrive at a framework, if you like, for consensus. So work in progress, but it's really exciting, and I really enjoyed watching those audiences hear from each other in terms of some of those challenges. But part of that work is about the success of the economy, making sure that we can support its growth and evolution. Part of it is about the residents' experience, part of it is about workers, part of it is about making sure we've got a diverse offer, so it's not all alcohol related. I totally accept as well on that diverse offer point. I feel like theatre can be expensive, so thinking about how we can work through partners and culture is something that's just coming to me in terms of my responsibilities, and really keen we think about the diversity of the offer that we've got here and making sure that we have got a cultural landscape that everybody can participate in and enjoy as well. It's not easy in the sector. They're very challenged, particularly from a funding perspective, but I am really keen that we do have those conversations to make sure that it is an accessible cultural offer that we have in the borough here.